The Crates are back in town. In Critters 2, the spiky little menaces overrun the town, and the population's only hope is a trio of returning alien bounty hunters and a ginger adolescent. We're not looking for incredible cinema here, just a bit of B-movie fun. Let's see if it delivers. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
Come again.
Sorry, joining me as always is Tim.
Let's save that for the blooper reel at the end of the year. That'll be good.
To be fair, Tim knows this, that we were literally just talking about David, so there's a reason why it was in my head. But obviously to you guys, it's like I've just forgotten Tim's name, and yeah.
Well, it took me a second because I was trying to think if there was a David in the movie. Like, is this a joke about like
No.
Was there someone in the movie or I don't know. All right, the old age is finally kicking in.
Apparently. To be fair, this is the second time I've ever done that. I once called either Connor Tim or you Connor. I don't remember which way around it was, but that was like 2 years ago. I did it once. So
you never accidentally call Matt Tara or something?
No. I think there's some obvious differentials between Matt and Tara to signify them. Anyway, this is a horror movie podcast, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today's episode, we are looking at Critters 2, which was actually a vote winner over in Patreon. We put up a bunch of sequels of like things we'd done the previous movies of and said, hey, what should we get to soon? And Critters 2 won. We did Critters 1 in 2019. It's been 5 years, and I know that because I've been reposting the old episodes from the TV channel onto the movie channel, and I've already gotten to where Critters is, and that was 2019. So
I've had 2 kids since we've done the first Critters movie. Wow.
How many kids will you have before Critters 3? Who can say?
We'll see.
So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you some warning before we do go into spoilers if you do happen to be scared of spoilers for Critters 2. And of course, if you are enjoying the show, I'll just remind you can hit the like button, and it helps out a bunch if you're watching on YouTube, and you can get an exclusive episode every month as well as some other extras over at Patreon, but I'll tell you more about all that at the end of the show. So yeah, and actually I rewatched Critters 1 about a month ago because I knew this was coming up, and I thought, you know what, it's been so goddamn long that I kind of want to just refresh my memory a little bit as to what Critters 1 actually entailed, because it, even though I'd seen them years and years and years ago, it'd been so long that I felt like I needed a refresh just to remain myself, and I'm glad I did, because there's a few characters that come back in this, and it's just nice to know which ones are new and which ones are returning.
That's good, because I might have a few questions, because there were things that I was thinking happened in this movie, but that didn't. That I was like, oh, was I thinking of the first one? And I mean, obviously we did the first one on the show, and I'd seen it before then, but yeah, I'm also not like not that I have anything against Critters, but it's just not one that I rewatched like a ton growing up. So I've only seen most of the movies probably once or twice offhand.
Yeah, I think I've only seen 3 and 4 once, so I'll be curious to see my feelings when we get to them. Of course, 3's got the cinematic debut of one Leonardo DiCaprio in it, so
of course, yeah,
which they put in all the DVD covers now. They have a little circle with his little face in it, and be like, hey, it's the first movie that he was in. Like, they've got that claim to fame. Critters, no one can take that away from Critters 3.
It's funny how many big stars like horror movies have launched their careers. Yeah, of course you have Johnny Depp in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Kevin Bacon in the first Friday the 13th. I don't know if that was his first movie, but
I think it was. Yeah, I think in both those cases that was their first movies, which is kind of wild that those both those franchises launched careers like that.
Yeah, so Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense.
Yeah, okay. I feel like it's less of a big deal though when they're a kid, because obviously it's the first movie because they're a kid.
That's fair. Yeah. Sure.
As opposed to like these examples where they were already adults. This was just their first movie role. But yeah. So yes, Critters 2. We're back to the town of Bend.
Grover's Bend.
That was it. Yeah. And there was some eggs left behind at the end of the last movie, and they're going to hatch over Easter weekend, and the critters are back in town, baby. The critters are back in town. So,
which I think about every year, we usually like a couple of weeks after April, one of us will always go like, shoot, we should have done Critters 2 for an Easter movie.
I don't think I remember this ever being said in our lives.
Oh, I've said it definitely a few times.
Because
it's like the only notable like Easter horror movie, really.
I mean, I never remembered this was an Easter movie. I was not shocked by it, but I was definitely not expecting Easter settings when I started this.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen it a ton, but like the two things that always stick out to me about it is one, I believe it's Mick Garris's first movie, I want to say. And I mean, no offense to Mick Garris, but probably his best movie. And then also that it's Easter, Easterish.
Easterish, yes.
But I mean, there's not a lot of Easter horror movies,
No. Also, one of the things that strikes me about it is just as it kind of points out at least what feels like a lot of differences between the UK and the US when it comes to Easter. Like, do you guys not get chocolate eggs that you give to kids and they eat the chocolate eggs?
So like what we always did growing up is, and I guess probably different households have different, traditions or whatever. With us, we would always get like a little like Easter egg hunt Easter morning, and then we would usually get like, we'd be looking around and then we'd get a basket and it would be filled with like different types of candy. Like there would always be chocolate eggs on it, but it wasn't like just that. It would usually be like an assortment of different types of candies, and then for me, like you would have like maybe like a few toys here and there.
No, I mean, Easter here, and I'm sure there's some more religious like families or groups that do more Eastery things, but all it really is here for growing up, or at least from my experience, was some relatives will give you some Easter eggs, and Easter eggs here is very specifically just means you get the big Mars bar like egg, or you get it's always tied to like a specific chocolate bar where you'll get a couple of the bars in the box with the chocolate egg itself, and that's it. That's what Easter is. You get a bunch of those and you get fat, and that's it. I don't remember any egg hunts. I don't remember painting eggs. I don't remember any of this business.
Yeah, I mean that was all stuff we did. I don't know how many people still do it now. I always liked Easter. I always thought it had good candy. I feel like it's chocolate eggs are the big one, but I think other than that, it's jelly bean focused, which I always like jelly beans.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I liked Easter eggs mainly just because sometimes you got chocolate that typically didn't come in its own, but you could so the chocolate that comes on a Mars bar, for example, you can't just buy a bar of that chocolate. It's different. Like, it's not like Dairy Milk and Galaxy where you get just individual bars of it. So it was actually kind of nice to just get that chocolate. But that's pretty much it. Obviously, though, it's the religious candy holiday. Halloween's way better. Come on now.
I don't know. I kind of like Easter, the Easter candy.
Tim, we literally do an October-thon every year. You've got to say Halloween's better. This is the rule.
I mean, as a holiday, yeah, but as far as candy goes, I don't know. I think Easter might have a little bit of a one-up on it.
Oh, okay. You're just specifically mean the quality of the can. Okay, I see.
Right, yeah. I don't mean the actual. Obviously, I like Halloween more than Easter. Come on.
I was going to say that'd be such a weird reveal here at the start of the show.
I mean, I love anything that's Reese's peanut butter, but the Reese's peanut butter Easter eggs are always so good.
That does sound nice.
Yeah, I think they're a little better than the Halloween pumpkins or the Christmas trees, but I mean, they're all the same.
I was going to say, aren't they just all peanut butter surrounded by chocolate? I'm pretty sure that's just what they all are.
Yeah.
All right. We're watching a Lin Shaye movie. That's exciting. Tim, what did you think of Critters 2?
It's always nice to see Lin. It's so funny because like looking at her, like I'm sure like she's still like pretty old, but like it's like, oh, she looks so young, like just compared to the Insidious movies and stuff. I like Critters 2 quite a bit. I think it's a lot of fun. yeah, I mentioned before, I think it's easily the best thing Mick Garris has done. I think it's a very straightforward, breezy kind of sequel. I like that it's just like, all right, hey, there was some eggs left over. I think I think it is kind of funny, like putting it in the Easter setting, because it makes it very ludicrous that these people are finding it and like, oh, we can sell these as Easter eggs. Like, it's so dumb, but it's dumb in a very fun way. I think there's some good like practical effects and some fun gore, and I actually did find myself like laughing quite a bit throughout. So I don't know, to me this is kind of like what you want for a sequel to this kind of movie. It's like, all right, yeah, we're not really reinventing much. We're just kind of taking the core thing from the last movie and just, I don't know, feel like expanding upon it and doing some more fun and new stuff. So yeah, I like it quite a bit. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do think it's better than the first one. I think it has more fun moments, feels a bit bigger, feels a bit more spectacular. I felt the first movie were hiding the critters more than this one, not because they were doing like, oh, we're like Alien, we have to hide it for suspense. It was more just, no, we only can show them for X amount of time because we don't have the money to do anymore. Here it felt like it was a bit more ramped up in that. I mean, it's still absolutely just a B movie though. Like, there's the structure of the movie's pretty lackluster. There's bad dialogue occasionally. There's not really much character growth or anything like that. But at the same time, on the fun side of things, it's absolutely shameless in a couple of ways that are really funny to me. We'll talk about the Playboy and what comes from it. But like, yeah, I mean, definitely a much easier watch. Not high art by any means. Nothing that you're ever going to be raving about. But it wouldn't surprise me when we're done with this franchise if we both say this is the best one. I know I actually don't know for sure if I'm going to say that, because I don't really remember how I felt about 3 or 4 from when I saw them as a teenager. But I could see. I think one of the things I like about this one, especially compared to the first, is that it feels like the whole town's involved, and it feels like the town's under siege kind of thing. So that's good fun.
Yeah, so you get a lot more of them like roaming around in different situations. We get like seeing different townsfolk and stuff. So I think that adds a lot of fun to it.
Yeah, we're not just stuck at the farmhouse for like 90% of the movie.
And I thought it moves pretty well. Again, it's been a while since I watched the first one, but if I remember correctly, when we did on this show, I kind of feel like one of my takeaways was like, oh yeah, this is a bit like slower than I thought, and kind of like you mentioned, like, oh yeah, maybe there's not as many critters action as you want, which is understandable if it's not like these like high budget movies or anything. But yeah, it feels like this one just we get a lot more of them. And it's just like a lot more playful, and they're doing like some cool, interesting stuff in it. Yeah.
And it doesn't happen as much in this one, I don't think, but the 1 or 2 times you get a subtitle for the critters saying something is quite funny. So props for that. Also, one of the big things in the first movie was following the 2 alien bounty hunters who are looking for the critters, and that aspect of it is back as well. And they do some fun, and like I said, shameless things with that, but it is mostly entertaining. So
I feel like no matter how many like times I watch it, I always forget that that's like kind of a big part of these movies. It's like, oh yeah, there's like this whole like outer space lore and stuff. Which I don't remember if I cared that much about it in the first movie, but I do think they do some pretty fun stuff with it in here. I was laughing at some of the gags.
Yes. I'm sure you were gagging at some of the laughs as well.
Of course, as one does with laughs.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun movie. It's not high art, but it's a fun enough B movie.
But I mean, do you want like a super serious, like elevated critters movie?
No, but like, I'm not even comparing it to something super elevated though. I'm saying that compared to something that is clearly ripping off like Gremlins is clearly the better movie. It's got better characters, it's better paced. The practical effects are better. Like, there's a lot of things that make Gremlins a great movie versus this, which is just kind of a fun schlocky B movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
I agree.
Worth keeping in mind, right?
But hey, this is still a step above like Ghoulies or Hobgoblins or Munchies.
I mean, out of those, I've only seen Hobgoblins, I believe, but yes, this is definitely a step up. I would say.
Well, You got to watch out for the ghoulies. They'll get you in the end.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a Rob Shea production, so he's low rent, but he's more classy than Ghoulies, at least. I mean, this is New Line Cinema.
It's a step above Full Moon, which I believe Ghoulies is Full Moon. So
yeah, well, that's the thing, is that you keep them like New Line Cinema. You kind of joke, but like they were doing Freddy Krueger, right? That was was their what kind of built and made their name, and that obviously seems a bit higher budget or class than this. But people remember is before Warner Brothers like bought them, like they did the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They actually built up to doing one of the biggest things in the world. Obviously it bankrupted them, and they had to get purchased by Warner Brothers because it was such a extreme expense they took on with that trilogy. But it's just funny to think that once upon a time they were just a step above Full Moon doing Critters sequels.
That's fine. I didn't realize Warner Brother bought them after Lord of the Rings, but
I think it was after. I want to say it was after. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after.
Lord of the Rings was such like a huge phenomenon. That would make sense that like they would, want them just like buying the whole studio for that one IP alone would probably be worth it to them. But I mean, it's kind of funny like seeing, because they did have like some like huge hits, like obviously like Freddy was super big, and then they did the was it just the first Ninja Turtles movie, or did they do like all three of those the 90s?
I think they distributed them, I want to say. Yeah, although I'm seeing on Wikipedia apparently the merger was well, okay, so this is weird. They merged with Warner Brothers in '96, so that they were tied to Warner Brothers when they did Lord of the Rings. But they ceased operation as an independent studio separately from Warner Brothers in 2006. So that's kind of weird to me to think about, because like New Line Cinema is still a thing. It's still like a subdivision of Warner Brothers. They still make horror movies and stuff. But so what the distinction is between before 2006, when they were still tied to Warner Brothers, but they were operating independently, versus what they are now, I don't really know what's the distinction there all that much, but regardless, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just interesting to think about.
And now I bring up the Ninja Turtles. I believe in that first movie, I think there's a scene where Raph is walking out of the movies, and it is Critters.
Yeah, it's Critters on the poster in the background, and he makes a little dig at, like, oh, how do they come up with this stuff?
That's fun. They're having fun with these movies. And then, I don't know if we want to save it for spoilers, but there's a nice little reference to a New Line movie in this. Yeah,
there's a little meta gag at one point in the movie, yeah. So, spoilers, I mean, I don't know how much we can talk about in this. Not because it's like a super twisty turny movie, just because I don't feel there's a lot to talk about. Without talking about what happens.
No, I mean, I think that's totally fair. I mean, essentially it's just kind of standard sequel stuff. Like it's just we get more critter action, but we get just there's more kind of bigger, funner action stuff. So I don't know what else to say.
All right,
without
spoilers for Critters 2. You've been warned, everyone. So Brad, the child from the last movie, is back. He's back in town visiting his grandmother. Apparently his family moved away, which one of the main things I forgot about from Critters 1 is that at the end of the movie, the aliens used their super fancy technology to rebuild their house. It all magically goes back together. I had completely forgotten about that. So it's really funny that in this movie, it sounds like they moved away immediately. They left town, they don't want to be here. So the rest of the family's not back. It's just him visiting his grandmother, and it's mostly other new characters. That said, though, there are a couple other ones that do come back. Namely, the sheriff from the first movie is back in this. And, of course, Charlie, who was like the guy who was like the sort of goofball, like adult friend of Brad, who at the end of the first movie left with the aliens. And as we see at the start of this one, he is wearing their clothes and he's helping them be bounty hunters. Although he's more like a shitty caddy than anything else. He just kind of runs behind them and like carries stuff for them.
Yeah, kind of got the sense that they're not like super like happy with him.
I don't know. The main one was it Nog?
Ugg.
Yeah, he seemed to. Wait, that's Terrence Mann that played him? Really? I did not reckon. I guess I didn't realize what Terrence Mann looked like when he was younger. Fair enough. But yeah, he does seem to have bonded with Charlie at the start, where Charlie's nervous about getting back to Earth, and he's like, no, you're a bounty hunter now. But it does raise some interesting questions. So we see these bounty hunters with Charlie killing some random alien monster on some planet, right? Fun, goofy little scene. And for some reason, Ugg still has the rock star face from the first movie, and the other one is still sort of blank faced. And I'm like, wait, why does he still have the rock star's face? Why would he still have that when they're traveling to different planets and stuff? And what's interesting is that Charlie at one point asks early on, why does the other one still not have a face? And the Rockstar one's like, well, you have to wait until you find the right one that fits before it'll stick. And I'm like, wait, so you're telling me that you, like, this face you found on Earth, it just feels like your face now? Like you've accepted it as yours, as if, I don't know, you found the right, I don't know, like, I don't even know what to compare it to, but like the right car for you. This is like what you're always going to use now. It's your hairstyle, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is kind of weird, but it's like they can still transform even after.
Yes, they can still transform.
Yeah, like I feel like it'd make more sense if it was like, oh yeah, once they find the face that represents them, then that is their permanent form or whatever. But it seems like you just found a face that you liked. Like, just admit that you like this face.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The only reason for this is that they wanted the audience to just sort of have an attachment to the characters. So
of course,
they wanted to have the guy have the same face. Because in the first movie, the second alien kept like changing to different faces. That was a big part of the first movie. And that happens here in the second one. And when they arrive on Earth, because they've had the call that there might be some critters still around, the joke is that Charlie is looking at him and the alien's starting to transform, and he's like, no, not me. And he holds up the issue of Playboy that he had in his hand that he found on the ground. So, of course, the alien turns into the Playboy model. And not only that, and that's not even the part that makes it shameless, but the idea that the boobs growing like actually just like shatters the outfit, so that we end up with her just standing there almost butt-ass naked, like holding this big cannon. Which, by the way, these cannons, they were intentionally making this as phallic as possible. It's every time they were aiming their guns and it would extend out in front of them. I was like, oh, okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. I did think it was a good gag that she even like replicates the like staple from the woman.
Oh, and then the magazine.
In the magazine, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good gag, except for the fact that well, they don't replicate the clothes though. Like even in the first movie, whenever they transformed into someone, they'd always still just be in their clothes. So it's funny to me that so you could create their clothes as well, but if you can create like other matter other than the person. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I agree it's a funny gag that was a staple in her stomach because she's looking at a centerfold, but it's still funny. Or it still doesn't make any sense when you stop and think about it.
Oh no, of course not. And then like I did it is kind of funny. I don't know, I get the sense that like Charlie just liked having like her around, even it's not really the what do you call it, the centerfold or whatever, but it seems like he enjoyed looking at her.
Well, he absolutely did, because that's the thing, when they go walking off after this moment, she is just like wearing like a thong, right? And Charlie runs up behind her with her outfit. It's like, hey, you need this. And then next time we see her, she's sort of like made the outfit sexy by having like a boob window, and she's cut the sleeves, and like she put a lot of effort into this being a sexy version of the alien outfit. Yeah. I was convinced the alien was going to just stay as her the whole movie, just for the sex appeal of it, but they do a couple of things with it to shake it up as the movie goes on. Namely, after their first big encounter with the critters, which is in like a diner, which we'll talk about in a bit, she like turns into this nerdy guy who's outside, and I'm like, oh, okay, now we get a nerdy dude. All right, I guess that's that. But
I love this this actor. He's been in like a ton of different things, but I don't know, his voice makes me laugh. It's like just so like such an over the top, like stereotypical nerdy voice, but I don't know. And I'm surprised he was in here in like such a small role. I guess he's not like a huge famous actor or whatever, but
Aye, but it's Critters too.
yeah. But like I feel like he would have had at least a little bit more to do. He's really not in the movie like at all. And I especially thought when she like transforms into him for like a little bit, like they don't really do anything with that. Like there's no jokes about.
It felt like there was probably some deleted scenes like in the middle of this that probably get taken out, because it's almost the very next time we see him around the corner, he's starting to glow as if he's changing, and Charlie sort of catches this, and he's almost relieved. He's like, oh, finally, like, enough of this nerdy guy. And then he walks around the corner and sees what she's looking at to see what she's turning into, and it's a stand up of Freddy Krueger, and he's like, no, and he holds up the Playboy again so she actually turns back into the Playboy bunny. And then that's her until she dies, which is not too far after that. But that was a fun joke. Part of me also thought though, like, yeah, but like you could have got Robert Englund to do a cameo.
I was a little upset about that, because like I feel like it just would have added so much more. Like obviously, you don't want him running around the second half of the movie as Freddy, the whole time, but like just get him in for like one line or whatever. Especially it's such like a New Line staple. Like they always call like New Line the house that Freddy built, and I don't know. I'm sure he would have been game. Like just have him do like one or two lines or whatever, and then transform back. I think that would have been so fun.
Yeah. Especially since I got to thinking about what would the voice be like. Would he do his Freddy voice, or would he just talk like Robert Englund, because she wouldn't know what Freddy Krueger sounds like? I suppose if you're doing the cameo, you probably would just have him do a Freddy Krueger voice. Yeah. They just be like, because she only said the only thing this character ever says is every time she transforms or again, like I don't know, she they're switching back and forth. It's hard to know what to say here, but is that she'll say must kill crates or something to that effect. So I'm just imagining Freddy Krueger being like, let's kill a Kreitz, bitches, or something like, and that being it. Even though again it makes no sense, she would actually say it like Freddy. For the joke, you just go with it, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But hey, no, the stand up was funny. It's fine. But then she meets her demise because she gets lured into an alleyway with too many critters, and then next time you see her, it's just like an arm that's been chewed off, and the cannon's there on its own. So yeah, the one thing we glossed over there, I guess, with this like thread is the diner scene where it is just they go into a diner where the critters are all eating burgers. In fact, there's even a critter who's flipping burgers at the grill, which I did think was funny. But they just I love how terrible these aliens are at their jobs, because all their plan is just to walk into any situation and start firing. They're Frank Reynolds from It's Always Sunny. So anyway, I started blasting. That is their response constantly. There's never a game plan. It's always just walk in and fire the cannon.
Yeah, it gets the job done.
No, it doesn't, Tim. We see clearly throughout this movie.
Well, they kill a good number of them, but sure, there's tons more, but at least they're killing some. So I forget from the first movie, do they go into like how they reproduce so fast? Like,
no, I don't think so. I don't remember it anyway.
Because it seems like there's only a handful of eggs, like at the start of the movie, but then it just seems like it gets to a point where it's just like tons and tons of them, and obviously they're not like gremlins where it's like you get them a little bit wet and then a bunch shoot out their back. No,
I don't think so. I think it's just maybe one lays some eggs and that's it, because it's never explained in the first movie that any of them are pregnant or anything. It's just all of a sudden there's eggs at the end, so I guess some of them can lay eggs. That's just all you need.
But then like you feel like a good amount of time has probably passed. That like, why did the eggs at the beginning of the movie seem to have taken so long to hatch?
Well, there's an implication, because the first ones that hatch are next to a heater, so I think the implication is that it needed heat to hatch.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. To sort of rewind and go back to the start of the movie, like I think he's maybe a high schooler, but he's got like a Jeep and he's got a leather jacket, but he wants to sell these eggs that he's found in the barn to this like pawn shop guy. And the pawn shop guy's like, these are useless, but he takes them anyway and then sells them to the church because they're doing their Easter egg hunt. So he sold a bunch of these eggs to her. And her granddaughter, who's also the daughter of another character, is given one of these eggs as well to take home. So the first like half hour of the movie, other than teasing that the aliens are coming to help again, is mainly these eggs moving around and where they are, and like, you know, eventually a couple of them hatch in the pawn shop guy's place, and they like chew out of the chair that he's standing on to get away from them, and they kill him, right? They get munching, they'll have to eat those critters. The other stuff in the first half, though, is just introducing the fact that Brad's back in town, that the town kind of hate him because he was telling all these stories of these like alien monsters and no one believes him. And I'm like, other people saw them too. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
Why is he getting lamped with that? But we introduced to a teenage girl who's a little bit older than him, but she is the daughter of the guy who runs the local newspaper, and she wants to go talk to him. She ends up befriending him and driving him to his grandmother's place. So that's what the first half hour of the movie largely revolves around, is all this stuff.
Now, if you had to describe this character, how would you describe her?
I don't know what you want me to say to this.
Would you say she's kind of like a Jimmy Olsen with breasts?
What's so funny is that he says, "What do you do?" Or was he? And she's like,
"I know what you're gonna say."
Right? And she's like, "Oh, I work with my dad at the paper, and I'm hoping to go to college next year." And he's like, "Oh, so you're like a Jimmy Olsen with breasts?" I'm like, "Dude, you look like Jimmy Olsen. You're the Jimmy Olsen in the pair of you. The cheek of you."
I thought you were gonna get mad because like, yeah, she says she's like a reporter, and he's like, "Oh, so you're like Jimmy Olsen," but it's like, well, Jimmy Olsen isn't really known for being a reporter.
Oh, she's Lois Lane. Yeah, she's just Lois Lane. Yeah, she's the more obvious and famous character. Yeah, no, that's also a fair point to make. But it bugged me because he looks like Jimmy Olsen. He's a little ginger,
that's fair,
scrawny asshole. Like that's who he should be. What was so weird to me about this is that I'm sure in reality, because the age of the actors, it was probably like fine, but because like he does look older than the first movie, don't get me wrong. The first movie he looks like 12 or 13. Here he's maybe like 15 or something like that, and she's like a couple of years older than him. But because the actress they've got playing her is probably 18, 19, and he's just legit straight up 15 years old, it did feel like there was a bit of a weird age gap here, where they're kind of doing the teen romance kind of blossoming, like they're going to kiss by the end of the movie, and I'm like, the movie language is telling me that he is too young for her. And he's probably not really in reality. Well, in reality it probably is, but like in the context of the movie, the ages they're supposed to be, it's probably fine. But I feel like the actress playing her was a little bit older than the age actually was, and whereas he's actually just the age that he's supposed to be. So there was a bit of like a like every time they were facing each other, I'm like, no, you look like a baby, and she looks like she's not old, like she looks like a baby to us because we're ancient now, but like she looks like a high schooler in a movie, whereas he still looks like he's maybe like in real life, yeah, he's a high schooler, but in a movie he looks more like a middle school kid because movies have skewed our brains as to what like age looks like.
Yeah. And I'm sure like if you just watch the first one, like, you know, right before watching this, like, you know, I forget, but like he's pretty young in the first one, right? Like,
yeah, it's like 2 years before this. No, he's not 10, but like, yeah, he's like maybe 12 or 13.
12,
you know. But he's like in the first movie, like this character, what's her name, Megan. She's about the age that his sister was in the last movie, and the whole idea in the last movie is that, you know, the big sister was the high schooler who was dating a guy. She was dating Billy Zane, in fact.
That's right.
But see, all these actors getting their starts in horror movies. Billy Zane, the star of The Phantom, of course.
Yeah, Smash Evil.
But he is like the annoying kid brother who's still pretty immature. So yeah, like obviously they're going for the whole he's grown up a little bit, he's had a growth spurt, whatever. But every time they were facing each other, he just felt like he was too young for her, and I was like, should we really be locking her up for preying on this young boy? And again, in reality, I don't actually think it's a problem, but it just felt like he was too young every time they were standing in front of each other.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, that's what it is. We also established in the first half hour that the sheriff from the first movie has been voted out, so he's not the sheriff anymore, but he's just living in a trailer at the edge of town. And Lynn Shay, who's one of the reporters in the small paper, goes out to speak to him, and he wants nothing to do with anything. He doesn't want to talk about the critters. In fact, he refers to them as those things that shall not be named. So just something else J.K. Rowling stole from when she was doing Harry Potter.
Of course.
It's Critters 2. I kid everyone before all the hardcore Potter nerds all start coming for me. It's all right. She mainly just ripped off Star
Wars. Come for your ass in the comments.
What is it with you coming for asses, Tim? Stop it. You keep saying that to me. I don't like it.
Well, that's what happens when they come for you. They're coming for your ass.
I have many other good features that they could come for. Don't give me that deafening silence, you prick.
I forgot about your infamous podcast 6-pack abs.
Oh, that's not set up expectations, Tim, that can't be met. The first half hour is kind of setting all this stuff up. There's some jokey stuff with the critter that hatches in the little girl's bedroom just gets stepped on by the dad when it's really small. But
the dad is way too nonchalant about it. Like, he's just like, oh, I think I stepped on your candy or something. And it's like, that is so gross and sticky. Like, if I did that, I would be like, what the hell did I just step on? Like, I would be freaking out so much.
Yeah, it's like sticky green blood. The smush into. Yeah, you definitely notice that and be questioning what the hell it is. But
also, like, we see other, like, critters and stuff get squished, like, earlier on in the movie, like, but they still, like, retain their shape. They don't just, like, devolve into, like, goo.
I guess because it was just a fresh newborn.
It was like that fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't get resilient until they're at least 10 hours old or something. I don't know. But yeah, honestly, the escalation to like, they're all over the town causing trouble is quite quick. The big first thing is that the new sheriff who's been forced to play the bunny, the Easter bunny, at the kids thing at the church, gets attacked and he ends up going through the window in front of everyone, and he's dead. And no one sees the critters, but immediately Megan's like, hey, Brad, is that those things you were talking about? Those critters. And which we should probably mention that he is like denying it now. He's like basically saying there's no such things. He's like, oh, that was just a dumb young child's like fantasy. And I'm like, dude, your entire family saw it. People died that night. It's like, you can't just write it off as a fantasy that's not real, as a delusion, because people did actually get killed by them. So that's absurd.
I thought there was like some pretty funny stuff here. I love the initial attack. Like, anytime like it just looks like someone is just throwing a ball at someone, it always makes me laugh.
I love them rolling about, like, because in this movie you get to see them all rolling in like a pack, like down the road. It's just kind of a fun visual.
And then it did make me laugh, like him just bursting through the church window. I forget what they said. What the priest like says a line before that or something. That's like kind of like sets up the joke of the guy like bursting through the window, but I forget what it was. But then I don't know. It just makes me laugh that they try to write that off as like they're saying like, oh, he must have got injured by some farm equipment or something. It's like, what farm equipment would like hurl you through a church window? Like, that's so weird. People
will try to explain anything with it. Actually, I want to go back to the start of the movie just briefly, because I forgot to talk about that when the bounty hunters get the call saying there might be critters still on Earth, we get to see who they're talking to, and it's just this big alien puppet thing with a huge head. I wanted to mention it. It was like, oh, they're just having fun with the silly alien visuals.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I want to say that alien was played by Mick Garris's wife, I think.
Oh, Cynthia Garris.
Cynthia Garris.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Honey, I think you're ugly enough to play this alien. Do you want to do it? And she went, yes. You also see like I thought they were going to put in some like Easter eggs in the ship, actually, because at one point, like Charlie opens this big like container and he throws in the head of what they just killed, and there's a bunch of other like alien heads in there. And I was like expecting like a Predator 2 style thing where there was going to be like something from another New Line movie or something just kind of in there.
I wonder if Killer Clowns had come out at this point, because I think that's like the other big Chodos brothers movie. So it would have made sense to have something like that there. I'm kind of surprised they have. I'm sure they've floated the idea around at some point, but I'm surprised there hasn't been any like Critters versus movies. Like, this seems like that'd be an easy thing to just throw in a situation to have the Critters fighting someone.
Yeah, Critters versus One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
There you go. I mean, obviously, like Critters versus Leprechaun would be a very easy go-to.
I don't know. This is boring. Doing the horror versus horror. I want Critters versus Little Women.
Little Women, sure. Okay, so they're both like little creatures.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh dear.
You can do like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, so then the critters look really big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All great ideas, of course. So
I know we're jumping around a lot, but I do want to mention too earlier, where like when you're talking about the guy finds the eggs and he's trying to pawn them off. I don't know, that scene was just really funny to me because it's like, why? Like, first of all, it's just funny that you see these weird eggs and your first thought is like, oh, I can sell these. Not like, oh, what the hell are these? I should probably try to find out what the deal is. And then, it's also just funny to me, like someone's like trying to buy like Easter eggs. Like eggs are so easy and cheap to find. Like, do you really need to like go to like the pawn shop and be like, oh, I'm looking for eggs? You know, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. And
yeah, also,
especially when you see those, it's like my first thought wouldn't be like, oh, these would be great for Easter eggs. Again, my thought would be like, oh, I'm not going to buy those things because they look like weird as hell and I don't know what they are.
Yeah, and if you want a bigger egg, you're better off making just an oval yourself and just going with it. And honestly, like when he's selling them to the old woman and she's like, oh, these look interesting, they're different, and he's like, they're European. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's what eggs like. Why does no one question? Okay, these are eggs, but they're eggs of what exactly? What animal did these eggs come from? Because
right. Like, we don't want Komodo dragons like hatching during an egg hunt.
That's what they look. I mean, I don't know what Komodo dragon eggs look like, but these look reptilian. So I get why you're making that comparison. They're dragon eggs. There's gonna be dragons coming out of them.
I am the last dragon.
As it was just the critters start yelling and the subtitle is "Winter is coming."
Dragonheart. That's the name of that movie, right?
I believe so. Yes.
That's one of those like weird series that you wouldn't think it, but there's actually like 15 of those movies. Like, there's so many like straight to DVD
it's
sequels.
The Land Before Time rollout. I see. Yes. Yes. Very good. All right, so like we've kind of jumped around the first half hour quite a bit, but once it gets going and they're running around, like Brad and Megan go to the ex-sheriff and try to get him to like join the fight, and he's like, F this, I'm leaving. That's the only good idea here, which obviously just means he's going to have a heroic entry like later on. He's going to come in and save the day, which he does. But I mean, honestly, like the movie goes from, okay, there's a bunch of critters in this restaurant eating cheeseburgers and shit and being blown up, to effectively the entire town ends up like hiding in the church, and they're kind of like just guarding it and like try to like hold them off, because at this point the main alien that's left, Ugg, he's like heartbroken about the other alien dying. Like, in fact, when he finds the arm and like sees that she's dead, like he screams so much that his face changes back to the blank version, like he's lost himself. So now he's kind of like depressed. So now it's up to Charlie and the kids to like maybe save the day. So good luck with that.
Yeah, it's actually not it's not a bad scene. I believe his pathos that he was feeling.
I love how you had nothing to say about the scenes. You thought, I'm just going to say a fancy word. I was going to say pathos. He had pathos.
I did think it was a nice little reunion when like Brad and Charlie are meet back up.
Yeah, they kind of like run into each other when they're at like the house getting the grandmother and the young girl out, I think. Because they come in blasting, and then they meet each other again and they hug, and it's like a whole thing. Yeah,
and I actually kind of feel like it did actually kind of feel like real to life to me, like, because it did seem so like reminiscent of, if you're out and about and like you see someone from like high school that you haven't like talked to in like a couple of years or something, you're just kind of like, oh hey man, like how you doing, like oh man, like I really miss you. It's like, oh yeah, like so how are things going, like oh yeah, I'm doing this big thing now, and you're like, oh really, cool. So like yeah, you're gonna be around a while. Like, I don't know. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's good to see you. Like, I don't know. It seemed like there was a truth there to that scene that I thought was nice.
Yeah, although I think I get that you're sort of turning it into the everyday version of that conversation. This specific version of it, though, had a few key phrases that stuck out to me. One was like, "Hey, you still an alcoholic?" was basically said, and he's like, "No, I don't need that anymore. I'm important in space. I've got a purpose."
Yeah.
And he's like, "So you're not going to stay around here then?" So Brad's kind of sad that Charlie's going to leave again, and Charlie's like, "Well, man, I got to go where the cosmic wind blows me." And I'm like, all right, shut up, Charlie. Cosmic wind blows you. Oh dear. Yeah, there's a couple of other scenes sort of setting stuff up, like when the kids are driving around, and I think it's after they go to the sheriff, like they find out about the eggs and where the grandmother got them. So they drive to the pawn shop guy's like storage place, and they find his dead body, and then they're attacked by the critters who like start like firing the darts that they've got at the car, and they actually run over. One of the critters like bites the tire, and they drive away, so you get like a squished critter afterwards, which is just sort of lying there dead in the ground.
Very cartoony, but very fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's a few, like, I feel like once, like, all this section of the movie, all leading up to when they're just sort of in the church, like, standing guard, is all very, like, scattershot. There's a lot of different little things going on until it all kind of comes together.
I think the restaurant scene in particular is just so much fun. I have maybe one of my favorite critter deaths is like the critter that is in the deep fryer. That looks so painful.
Yeah. Well, because what's so fun about it is they made a critter that didn't have all the hair and spikes. It's just the flesh, like, center, because it's all been like burned off, and he's just yelling out of the air fryer. Yeah, or not air fryer, just deep fryer. They didn't have air fryers in 1986.
No, come on. And I think we get one of the critter subtitles in that scene. I think one of them says like bitchin' or something.
Yeah. There's basically, it only comes up in two scenes. It's this scene and then the scene later where there's a bit of infiltration happening.
Yes.
But so one of the big things of this movie, or one of the scenes that stuck out to me, is this idea of like the town not wanting to trust Brad because he was saying all these things about aliens, even though now it's very clear that it's all true. Is that once they're huddled up in the church, this old guy starts saying, "Hey, this kid was talking about these alien monsters 2 years ago, and now he's back, and all of a sudden the aliens are back, so clearly it's his fault." And they all start ganging up on him, and it's not until someone steps in and says, whoa, why are we, dealing with that? Why are we wasting our time trying to pick on him and blame him when we've got all this stuff to do? I just thought that was an interesting slice of conspiracy theory nonsense that immediately they're like, oh, this must be his fault, because he's back in town.
It's like, even, when you have this like bigger enemy that people need to face, like people will still turn against each other or try to find a scapegoat.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me as well, is after the restaurant scene when they come running out, like the aliens are saying, oh yeah, like they always eat together like a family, so it's a bad habit or something like that. But then he says something about, oh, like, and they eat meat, it's a really bad habit. And that's when the nerdy guy comes in and goes, "You don't eat meat?" And he gets really like offended by it. And I'm like, whoa, like, we're vegetarians, like that ostracized in the late 80s? Did people hate them that much?
I'm wondering if that's a specific touch from Mick Garris, because I know I want to say he's vegan. I mean, maybe he's just vegetarian, but I think he might be vegan. I know he's like talked about that before on his podcast. I think he is like very much against like using animals for food or anything. So I'm wondering if he's always been like that, or maybe if around the start of this movie that was stuff he was thinking about, or
maybe, I don't know. It just stuck out to me. It's a little kind of like the idea that someone's just shocked that someone wouldn't eat meat just felt like a really dated little thing to me.
I feel like I mean, obviously now it's like, who cares, but I do feel like that's like a joke you would see about in like sitcoms and stuff, like in the 80s or 90s. People like, vegetarian, like, what? Like, that's not manly, like, how can you do that?
Yeah. So the sheriff's big entrance comes when there's some critter action happening, and Brad has to go and grab the little girl who's Megan's little sister. I don't know if we mentioned that, but Megan's little sister's the little girl. Her dad runs the newspaper, and then it's actually Brad's grandmother who looks after her, like a babysitter, I guess. I don't know. The connection there was a bit weird, but he picks
It's a
up.
small town. Everyone probably knows each other.
Everyone's related. It's all incest, yeah. But he is like shielding the little girl, and the critter is about to like come after them, and this is where he basically just braces for death, and he's like, "Oh well, this is it. So sorry, kid. We're about to go to the big, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese in the sky." I think it's some American thing. But bam, 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 couple of gunshots. And not only is the sheriff standing there, he even does the little gun twirl when he puts the gun back in the holster, and he's like, "I'm back." And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, Arnold." Everyone's happy you've returned. Excellent news.
Yeah,
good for you. Oh dear. But yeah, from there they basically just try to figure out a plan, and the plan ends up being, let's lure them all to one location and blow them up, right? And this is kind of like a returning character trait, because in the first movie, Brad's whole thing is that he likes setting off firecrackers and explosives. So it doesn't really come up in this movie until this moment where he's like, "Hey, let's blow it up." Because I think the sheriff's like, "Oh, really, Brad? Like, back up to your old tricks." He's like, "No, that's all work." Well, so not only are they going to blow them up, right? And I'm sure I didn't catch what it was. I'm sure there was a line of dialogue that hand waved away why they've got access to dynamite. But I didn't notice what that excuse was, so I just saw them with boxes of dynamite next, and I'm like, okay, I guess there's a mine nearby or something. I don't know what's going on, but
it's an Easter tradition. You blow up a big rock or something.
You blow up a bunny.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Booming bunnies. Bunny boomers. Bombastic bunny boomer bombs.
Fair enough. You got that out of your system?
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
My favorite part of this plan, though, wasn't so much the explosive side, because that's easy. My favorite part, though, is that they use like the food storage, like factory or warehouse or whatever, but they basically dump out a bunch of cheeseburgers and then get a big fan to blow the smell into the town so that the critters will smell it and come and get the cheeseburgers. But I don't know, something about that just really tickled my funny bone. The idea that they just get a fan and sort of blow the scent downwind.
Yeah, I know it's not exactly the same, but I'm pretty sure they do a somewhat similar thing in was it the second Return of the Living Dead movie?
I don't know. It's been a while, Tim. I can't remember.
Because I believe like there's a scene in that one where they're trying to lure all the zombies somewhere. So like they're driving a big truck of like meat that they're all like chasing after. So remind me of that. I don't think either one's necessarily ripping it off, but the first thing I thought of.
No, not at all. I think the meat. I mean, that example you just gave me sounds like it makes more sense to me, because it's like literally going right past them, so that obviously they'd smell it. There's something funny to me about just we're going to put a fan behind it and just sort of blow it in that direction, and hopefully they're going to smell it, which they do. They very quite quickly go, food, and they start rolling towards the warehouse. But then once they get like halfway there, and like all of our characters are watching with binoculars off in the distance, they stop and go, and this is where we get subtitles again that says, "Hey, there's live meat that way," and they go back towards the humans, and they're like, "Shit, it's not working," because they like live meat and more than dead meat. Until, and this is an interesting little thing here, is that a slightly bigger critter stops them and says, "Cheeseburgers though, no bones, easier to eat," and convinces them all to go back towards the warehouse, which they do. And at the end of this little bit, we find out that this slightly bigger critter is actually Ugg. It's the main alien who transformed into a critter to convince them to go back that way, which is really surreal, especially since up until now they've only turned into other humanoid things. Like, it's always been somewhat of the same basic shape. I suppose, though, establishing that the boobs can grow out for the Playboy bunny does imply that they can change the rest of their body as well. So
that's true. Yeah.
I guess they set it up. I can't deny it.
I was surprised by this as well, but it does make sense, because they are aliens. So if I'm sure they're traveling to other planets with very different life forms and stuff. It wouldn't make sense to only be able to copy like very specific human shapes, but. Yeah, it was a fun little reveal.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Nice little effect as well.
And then, have we already gotten the big critter ball at this point, or is it?
No, this is after they blow up the warehouse.
Okay.
So they get them all in the warehouse and they blow it up and they think they've won. They're all cheering. They're happy. And then the big critter ball comes flying out. So the critter ball, if you're unfamiliar, is just all the critters huddling together into one giant ball. So the big climax of this movie is the big critter ball going around the town and them trying to deal with it.
Such a cool, fun idea. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest takeaway from this movie, or one of the most memorable things. The critter ball is just so much fun.
Yeah, it feels like they really thought of like, okay, what can we do in the sequel that'll shake things up and maybe give them something that's not just a rip-off of Gremlins, right? Something that's unique to them. And the rolling around in the balls is pretty unique to them already. So they're like, oh, hey, what if they all just bundle up together into one giant ball because it makes them unstoppable? And it kind of takes a monster movie and turns it into a giant monster movie because all of a sudden now they're rolling around and they're 12 foot tall or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's fun. Just before this, there was a moment where Charlie ran away scared and it looked like he was chickening out. But he actually gets his big moment because he suicide dives the alien spaceship into the critter ball, blowing it up, and that's what saves the day at the end. So they all think Charlie's dead. He does eventually show up, which I thought was actually a little surprising, just because I thought the idea that Ugg took his face out of respect, and he says, I'm going to be Charlie now, I'm even going to take his name. It felt like a nice kind of like tribute to him, because he like sacrificed himself to save everyone. But then they do the whole bit right after that where Charlie just shows up with a parachute anyway. He's like, hey, I'm back, guys. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah, it feels a little weird and cheap, but I don't know. I guess it's fine. I don't know if they're already like planning far ahead or something. And again, I forget what happens in the other sequels. But
I don't remember things too well, but I am willing to bet you money, Tim, that not a single character is back in Critters 3. I'm pretty sure it's all new characters.
Oh, okay. The only thing the only I guess justification I was thinking is that with this, like, if you want to have like a Charlie in space, or I guess the bounty hunter looking like Charlie, or if you want to have him back in town as a sheriff, like, if you're doing a space movie or a Critters movie, you could have that same actor back. But other than that, I don't really get the point of it.
Yeah, I was thinking, if they're planning or hoping for more direct sequels, that they would be, oh, this is a good excuse to keep the actor around. We're going to have him be the alien now, so he's different than he was before. It means he doesn't have to play a goofball anymore. But I don't know if Critters 3 and 4 were direct-to-video. I'm pretty sure 4 at least was, if not 3 too. But I think this one's a sequel to the first movie in a proper sense, where it's like, hey, some characters are back, it's the same town, it's continuing plot threads. I'm fairly certain that in Critters 3 and 4, we don't have these alien bounty hunters back, at least not the same one anyway. Maybe technically, like, because 4's in space, so maybe there's bounty hunters in that one.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that, there's no characters coming back. It's more of a straight direct-to-video sequel in the truest form, where, we can't have the actors back from the first movie in its proper sequel. Kind of like in the same way how, like, after the first couple of Hellraisers, they kept getting Doug Bradley back for Pinhead, but, like, no one else was coming back after that point,
Oh, yeah. And I know, I know the first 4 are the main ones, but don't forget that there are more Critters movies after 3 and 4.
Well, it's just one, because it was like that, like, weird thing that was like a split up into like episodes, but they combined it into a movie. Was it?
So I believe they had like a weird thing that was like, I don't know if it was like an online show or like some weird streaming thing, but I want to say that they combined those into one movie. But then I think they had like one other like actual like movie that was,
I don't
like
think I knew that. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. I really thought that we'd be doing the 4 movies and that was pretty much it, because that 5th thing was kind of like more of a TV show. But
I'm pretty sure there's one that was at least a proper movie. I'm not saying that it's necessarily good, but
well, I mean, I'm on the wiki page and it's just that one thing after 4, Critters Attack from 2019. Yeah. There's nothing else.
Does it say if it's a movie? I'm pretty sure it's like a actual movie.
I mean, I think that's more of a movie. On TV, there's something called Critters: A New Binge.
I think that was like the show thing.
Yeah. I think Critters Attack though was even split up originally as well. I could be wrong though. Do you know who wrote Critters Attack, the fifth one?
I might have known at some point, but I forgot.
I don't think you're prepared for the name I'm going to say.
Okay.
Scott Lobdell.
Oh, really? Oh my god. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that means nothing to most of the audience, I'm sure, but Scott Lobdell is a comic book writer who is terrible. Although weirdly he did actually write the script for Happy Death Day, which is actually fantastic. So I don't know what happened with that one, but I mean, maybe he's a better movie script writer than he is a comic book writer. Maybe that's just all it is. But
I mean, maybe at least if he writes the initial script, but then people can kind of take the germ of an idea and maybe expand upon it or something. But yeah, that name doesn't fill me up with confidence.
Yeah, I suppose we do have to do that. So I guess there is a fifth movie that we will do, and that's Critters Attack.
I think we'll do that one. I mean, a new binge we probably don't have to do, although I think they are relatively short. Maybe we'll do a bonus episode or something if we're feeling particularly nasty. But
yeah, I'm feeling nasty, Tim. Punish me.
Oh my.
I thought you had another sentence after that. I seem to have cut you just dead there. Okay.
I'm still processing.
Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting is that the director of the fourth one is actually the producer who's been there pretty much since the first one. So that's kind of interesting that he just kind of stepped up and directed. But okay. Well, I mean, there you go. Well, we'll see how things shape out. Yeah, I mean, the end of Critters 2 though, it's like, they actually teased that they won't kiss like 4 times before they finally kiss. And the thing that really stuck out to me is when Brad and Megan kiss, is that the old sheriff's watching and smiling, and it made me very uncomfortable. Like, he was enjoying watching them have their first kiss a bit too much for my liking.
Like, doesn't he say something like, "Come on, boy, like, you gonna kiss your girl or what?" Like, something like that.
He does, and then they get interrupted by Charlie coming back, and then the final goodbye actually happens, they kiss, and it cuts back to a reaction shot of him just sort of smiling and be like, "Oh, hot dang. Yeah, that's some good loving right there."
Oh dear.
Very weird. So the movie actually ends with the bus leaving, and there's a title or a caption comes up on the screen saying the filmmakers would like to thank the town. And I'm like, wait, is this a real town that you shot in? Like,
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, really?
Okay. I assumed this was a bunch of like sets on like a patch of land, but okay, fair enough. But hey, also, it's so wild, like, because this was 1988, the first one was 86, then 3's 91, and then 4's 92. Critters 5 or Critters Attack is 2019. Like, the time jump after that fourth one is absolutely absurd. So
I mean, it's such an easy property. Like, I kind of wish that maybe it would come back a little bit more, because I feel like there's, again, I don't think they're ever gonna rise above that kind of B movie level, but I mean, I think there's still fun things you could do with it. But yeah, you probably need like somewhat capable hands. I mean, I'm not super enthused about the Scott Lobdell one, although I did watch that one back in the day. I don't remember hating it, but
it makes
we'll see when we get to it.
Yeah, it makes me morbidly fascinated. Like, I'm curious to get to it now, just because of that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're ready to rate Critters 2. It's a fun enough B movie that's definitely lower down the tiers versus something that's more competent or more prestigious. But I do think it has more fun consistently than the first one does. So I'll give it that. It does have some bad dialogue. There's one point when they're waiting out in the church before all the stuff starts happening, and it's like one of those like classic scenes of a movie where the main character, in this case Brad, is just sort of looking out at the town, and Megan comes up next to him and he's like, "I just wish I knew where they were, but they're out there somewhere." And I'm like, this doesn't feel like real dialogue. This feels like you've copied dialogue from a different movie and just like slotted it in here, and it just feels a little bit off. Like, I just don't buy this kid speaking like this, but yeah, that's what it is.
forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, you're going to rate the movie, Tim, so you can
I can say
swipe into that.
sure. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like I'm just being very repetitive, but I just think, the best way to describe this movie is just it's a lot of fun. Even though like it's not like the critters don't like pop up like within the first 5 minutes or whatever, but like I never really feel bored throughout the movie. The dialogue and stuff isn't the best, but I think there's a charm and I like the characters enough. I do kind of like these like small town settings where you're going through a bunch of characters and getting to know them. If anything, I wish like that we did a little bit more with some of the other characters. Like would have been fun maybe to see like a few more deaths or something, but I feel like you get more like gore from like the critters, or you get a lot more like interesting deaths with people killing the critters versus like critters killing the people, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, I think there's like some fun gags that they do with them, some good like special effects, and to me, it's kind of what you want out of this type of movie. It's like, all right, yeah, we have the premise of the critters from the first movie, and we're basically just doing more with it. And it's like you said, like they have to think of like, all right, what's like the big thing we can do to kind of stand out from the first movie, like because you don't want the sequel to just be playing the same beats and stuff. And I think they find like fun stuff to do, and like the big ball and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a pretty good score, but again, not gonna go can't go too high because again, it's still working around that like B level. But I think I'm gonna give it here go as high as a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good, but I mean, it's definitely not like verging into great territory, but I think there's just a lot of fun to be had with it, and I think again we still have to go through the other Critters movies, but I do think it is definitely the best of the franchise, at least from what I remember. The other ones, I mean, we'll see when we go through them, but
yeah, I mean, I am only going to go with a 6. I think it's fun for what it is, but it's definitely at that kind of 6 out of 10 tier movie. I think my bigger critiques of it would be that the momentum in the movie is a bit weird, in that it feels like we go from like setting things up to they're all in the church sort of trying to like solve problems or waiting out as if they're in a siege, like without like a big scene that gets them to that point. I never felt like we got the big attack scene where they all run to the church and like sort of run in there. It feels like it kind of glosses over some of the beats that it should have to like make it feel like it's escalating in the right way. But there's some fun stuff. It knows it's a B movie. It knows it's silly and cheesy. It camps things up with between the supermodel or Playboy model like alien and like all this stuff with the outfit she's wearing and the weird cannons that are very phallic, or the Critter's sense of humor in general. The ball, of course, the big ball is inspired. It's a fun way to, it gives the movie a big ending in a way that maybe the first movie was kind of lacking. So, but yeah, a comfortable 6 out of 10. Not high art by any means, but if you want something silly to put on, especially as background noise, you can do much worse than Critters 2.
Sure. So,
very cool. All right, so that is Critters 2. Next week on the show, I think it's the Patreon week. Yeah, so next week there won't be a regular episode, but patrons will get access to our next summer exclusive episode, which is going to be Nightmare Beach. So look forward to that, everyone. And we'll be back the week after that with whatever the winner of the last Patreon vote was, which at the time of recording, we don't know what that winner is. So we'll see that when the time comes. But you can, of course, get access to the Patreon episode by being on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. $3 and up gets you access to that. $5 and up gets access to even more streams, which is like different topic segments we'll do. We just did top 5 vampire movies and just sat and debated that for like 40 minutes. So if that sounds like fun to you, you can go and check out all that stuff and help support the show and help keep it coming. Wouldn't be able to do this without the support on Patreon or YouTube memberships and all that stuff. So Thank you very much. Otherwise, like, subscribe, all the usual things. But that is the show. That has been Streams After Midnight. So we will see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.